Look at me! As well as controlling the amount of light that we capture onto our medium, the shutter speed also controls the amount of time that we can capture that light for. And that allows us to freeze the action or allow the action to blur for creative effect. Here we can see that the relatively slow shutter speed of 1/30th of a second is unable to freeze the action of this moving subject. By following our subject with a camera at this shutter speed, we can create a sense of speed on our background whilst the subject remains relatively sharp. Here we used a fast shutter speed of 1/500th of a second, which has frozen the action but has resulted in a motionless looking image. By using a fast shutter speed, we'll be cutting down the amount of light that reaches our medium. So we'll need to use a large aperture to compensate. So to determine the right exposure level, you can use the camera's built-in light meter. In this example, we can see that the picture is one stop underexposed on our exposure scale. To correct this, we open the aperture by one stop from 5.6 to f4, giving us the correct exposure. Here we open the aperture by yet another f-stop, resulting in one stop overexposure. By selecting a slower shutter speed, we'd be allowing more light to reach our medium. Now to compensate, we'll have to use a smaller aperture. Now again, you'd need to use the camera's built-in light meter to determine the correct exposure settings. And that way, you can find out what the ideal aperture and shutter speed combination is. But let's take a look at some semi-automatic modes that you might find useful. One of the great modes on modern day SLRs is TV or S mode, and this is a shutter priority mode. Now if you look on the camera here, we can switch the camera from program to TV mode there, and that means time value. And on this camera, it's on the digital display screen, and we can change the mode, and I can switch it there to TV mode. Now in TV mode, I can select the shutter speed that I'd like to use, and the aperture will change accordingly. So this is a fantastic mode if you are sort of using the camera in half manual and you're just deciding the shutter speed and the camera will decide the appropriate aperture. But I still recommend trying to use the camera in full manual when you can, and using the camera's built-in light meter to determine yourself the shutter speed and correct aperture combination, because that will get into a much better habit of using the camera in manual for full creative control. In this example, a fast shutter speed of 1/500th of a second has frozen the action. Here, a slow shutter speed of 1/30th of a second has resulted in a blurred image. But by using a shutter speed of 1/30th of a second and following the action using a technique we call panning, we have created a sense of motion in our picture whilst keeping our main subject sharp. When we need to use extremely slow shutter speeds of maybe several seconds, then we have to use a tripod in order to avoid camera shake. By using a tripod and long shutter speeds, we open up more creative opportunities, especially for landscape photography. Setting up your shot with the camera attached to the tripod can often be difficult, so it's a good idea to locate your shooting position first. This means it can make finding your composition a whole lot easier. Okay, we've got a great shot set up here. The light is working out really nice now. We've got that setting sun, and the balance of the light between the foreground and the horizon is balancing out absolutely perfectly. I've got a long shutter speed set so that I can capture some of the wave motion cascading around these rocks, and we're going to get some really good results of these waves just rolling in and trickling around those pebbles, and we've got this nice gloss finish over the top of the rocks. Just got to be careful with the splashes on the camera. We've got some protective filters on the end there, which are also helping darken the image down for me a little bit. But already we're starting to get the pictures that we were looking for a little bit earlier. Some great results there in the preview screen. Long shutter speed, good composition. And what I've worked out is this large pebble in the foreground, that large boulder, and then the next one, and then the series of pebbles out from there to give us the depth and scale that we need to attain in a good landscape image, to give us that sense of 3-dimension, because obviously we're working in a 2-dimensional format. So I'm just going to carry on shooting a few more while that sun's setting, because the light is looking really, really good. Got a big wave coming down now. Knowing which shutter speeds will work best for capturing wave motion is often a case of trial and error. I tend to use speeds of half a second up to 8 seconds, but I experiment with these speeds by using the camera in full manual. Got another big wave coming in now. It's one of the hazards of landscape photography. Right, we've got some really good results with some of those images that we've just shot there. I'm just going to see now, I've been forced back up the beach a little bit, but I'm not too worried because we've already got some great pictures in the bag. That was really good light, sun set beautifully, the light balanced out as we expected and saturated in the sky really well. And we've got that bit of motion of the water around these lovely big pebbles and big boulders, the light glistening off it and reflecting. Fantastic finishing shot. I think it's time to go home now and have a cup of tea.